Today, in this episode, I had a great conversation with Niki, and we talked about a new book, a book that she's developed based on all of her experiences on how to launch businesses, keep them going, and run them. And I promise you, it's a very short episode, but it's full of depth and quality. I hope you love it. Thank you. Good afternoon. Welcome to the David Watson podcast, and thank you very much for coming on.
You're welcome. Hi.
As I stumbled over my words in the introduction there. But the exciting news for us is that you have actually just launched a book. Well, you launched it 10 days ago.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
Running your business doesn't come with a manual, but it does now.
Yes. Yeah.
So how did it come about?
I'm part of a masterminding group, and actually in the package for that masterminding group was the opportunity to write a book. It was never really on my radar before. I didn't join the mastermind thinking, oh yes, I want to go into it because I really want to write a book. It was just an opportunity that arose, and I decided to take it. I'm not a natural writer at all, so the process was quite a challenge. But yeah, now some 6-7 months later, I have produced a book.
So when you say the process was a challenge,
Mm.
in which ways?
I think because because I'd not written a book before, it's like, I think when you have a child or get married, it's very much like nobody can prepare you for it, and it's your own experience. And I think going on that process of writing a book, getting all of your words down, being in a place where you're going to end up potentially maybe feeling a bit vulnerable and putting that out there and sharing your words and sharing your insight, it's quite it's just quite a all-in project that just seemed to go on forever, really. It was I have
written a book, and it was self-published a few years ago now, but something you said there was a vulnerability about it. And I don't know why. There's certain elements when I was head down writing, ploughing away, I really enjoyed it. But when it came to the end, and it's just like, oh, you've now got to show this to people and do something with it, I was quite intimidated. And I'm not an easily intimidated person, but I really did feel that, as soon as you said about the vulnerability, that really resonated with me, because that's exactly how I felt. Really vulnerable about, it's like almost handing in homework to the world's nastiest headmaster. It's just like, and I just lower myself for punishment. For something I was deeply passionate about. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, that 6-7 months process is like, I was completing that project alongside running a business. And there were so many parts of it that were all very all in and all consuming. And definitely, I think when you kind of handed it in at certain stages, it was like, oh my goodness, somebody else is going to be reading how I put things across. And if someone asked me a question about business, I can flow with it, I can answer, I can give them a solution, but to put all of that into words in a book, it's very different, very, very different. So yeah, absolutely. I think there was a real, vulnerability around, are people going to like it? Are they not going to like it? Am I going to get critiqued? What does it all mean? And now I'm very much, I haven't even looked at the inside of the book, because I think I've been so in it for so long. Like, I think I almost need to detach myself from it for, just a little while, and then I'll go back to it. But yeah, definitely interesting experience.
It's it's quite incredible, isn't it? Because it's an area that you could talk in front of 1,000 people and be really confident. But because you've
Yeah,
somehow turned that into a book that anybody can read and learn from in their own convenience, you're
yeah.
suddenly quite nervous about this now.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, I know every single one of my clients. I know them really well. But when I'm posting about my book on social media, I've had people go, "Oh yeah, I've got a copy," and "Oh yeah, I'm just on the first chapter," and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I don't really know who you are," and I'm all of a sudden like touching that person's life because they're reading my book and I don't really know them. It's a very weird concept,
Have you
very
figured
much
out
so.
how to say thank you to them yet?
Just apart from thank you in the comments,
Yeah.
no, not yet.
No, I was actually, I was kind of looking for an insight because I still struggle now. If somebody says to me, I've read your book. I'm like an awkward teenager and I just sort of say thank you and don't know what else to say because I'm really
Yeah,
flattered, like so
yeah,
flattered, but I don't want to come across as being like, I'm so flattered, thank you, I'm so grateful. Because
yeah. And I've had a client in earlier before I've jumped on to talk to you, and she's like, I read it all in one night, and I'm like, oh my goodness,
that's such a
like
compliment.
I'm so like grateful, thank you so much. And she's like, yeah, it's great, and I want more copies, and da da da. And I'm like, oh, okay. You just can't put into words the concept really around it all. I think you have to experience writing a book to really fully understand the full process. There's been tears, there's been smiles, there's been tantrums, all sorts of things with this book. But yeah, it's out there now.
I'm glad. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. It's because for people, anyone that's done it or is in the process of doing it is a hell of a process. And
Yeah,
there isn't, people always like, what do you recommend? What's your writing hacks? And I was just like, there isn't any. You just have to
no.
sit down and get on with it. It is, and some of it's really pleasurable, and some of it's really tedious.
Yeah. And on day of launch, I think, gosh, I was up sort of by 5 a.m. getting posts for social media and things out there, and that day I don't think I came off my phone at all because it was just messages and comments and thank yous, and it was just all absorbing for one day. And no one can prepare you for that.
No,
You
no,
just got to do
definitely
it.
not. So, on the insides of the book, what would people
Yes.
expect to see?
So the title itself really comes from I say to a lot of businesses and business owners, when you start a business, there isn't something that's going to tell you on day 28 you should be doing this, or when you're experiencing this in your business, it's because of this, and this. So that's what I really wanted to bring together in a book. So there's two sides to the book. One is my 4-step process that I use with all my clients, because I really focus with business owners on strategy, accountability, and getting consistent results. So I have a 4-step process, which is very simply plan, do, review, and improve. So helping them set a monthly plan, taking the right actions. But one area that a lot of business owners don't do or don't find the time to do is actually review how everything has gone, and therefore can apply any improvements that they need so that they're not wasting time, energy, and money going forward. They can actually improve on what's happening. So that's the first thing. I also break it down into helping business owners look at 4 key areas in business, which is sales and marketing, people, operations, and finance. So essentially, with those 2 things aligned with each other, it really starts to help businesses start to focus on where they're working well, where they might be procrastinating, where they need help. So I break it all down in the book on how they can work through that. And then in the second part of the book, it's really an A to Z. So if you want to talk more about networking, I've done a section on networking. If you want to talk more about accountability, I've done a section on accountability. So it's kind of a go-to. So if somebody's got an issue in their business, they can literally look at the A to Z and go, oh, okay, that's equipped me enough to be able to make a better decision, or that's equipped me enough right now to be able to go, oh, okay, those are my thoughts around that. What information do I need to go and find next? So it's every step in the book is there to help business owners take the next step that is right for them.
So is it kind of worded in the way, as you were saying about your 4 principles? So you always kind of questioning and reviewing.
Yes, very much so. And I think I really approach the book in, I'm kind of a no fluff, no faff kind of approach myself. So I very much approach the book in, this is what you really need to think about. That this might be what other people tell you that's a bit, fluffy and nice, but this is what you actually need to think about. And I reiterate throughout the book, if you're not showing up consistently, if you're not taking action consistently, if you're not learning from your mistakes and seeing how you can improve and move on, you're always going to stay in the same place. So yeah.
So I'm assuming there's quite a few tools inside that book for kind of, and there's strategies in a way to overcome people's natural procrastination.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, because I mean, often with businesses, you have somebody who is incredibly good at what they do.
Yeah.
But they're not able to communicate to anybody how that fixes their problems, how that solves their problems. So, which is kind of that sales technique of, look, you're not trying to sell somebody anything. You're just trying to make them aware that you have a problem, and I'm the person that can fix that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, sorry, absolutely. I mean, it's I think just like within the book, it really helps. Yeah, I think it just really helps center people to kind of say, this is my issue and I need to just be equipped a bit better with what I do next. And what the procrastination part, procrastination and perfectionism go quite closely hand in hand for me. And I think the perfectionism, it literally is stopping people in their tracks to implement or to get something out there or get it launched. But then procrastination can do that too, because there's a fear factor that comes in. So yeah, I definitely have businesses who come to me and go, everything needs to be all ducks in a row, 100% perfect before I can launch it, with no errors. Or the procrastination part is very much, again, fear is stopping them in their tracks, because it could be imposter syndrome, or it could be a confidence thing, or it could be I've priced myself wrong, or things like that really then just stop people in their tracks for getting it out there. And the principles that I bring in, the principles I bring in is like, it's that reviewing and improving part that is just as important as planning and taking the action. Because if you get something out there that's brand new and you don't review what worked and what didn't work, how are you going to know for the next time? So, and I've done a whole, I've got a review with my operations manager on Wednesday on this whole book process, because if I ever write one again, highly unlikely, but if I do, I know exactly what worked and what didn't work.
Well, because it's interesting you said something there about imposter syndrome, because some of the most capable people in their field, in their area of expertise, can feel like imposters.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. And I think, and I mentioned this in the book, so it doesn't matter, I think, and I've seen it time and time again, if you're, I don't know, turning over £1,000 a month in your business, or you're turning over £1 million in your business. We're all just experiencing different levels of those things at a different stage in our business, whether it be mindset, imposter syndrome, perfectionism, procrastination, whatever that may be. It's just at a different stage. It's just at a different intensity, or not really.
So you said you're not keen on the idea of writing another book, at least not yet. But when you were like prepping this book, was there anything where you thought, actually, that's a subject I'd like to get into more of, but for another time?
Yeah, there's definitely something right now, actually, which is around. There you go. He's going to get a second book out of me before the end of this podcast.
I've got an exclusive.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all happening. But there is something right now where I think businesses need to be captured at a certain time, when either they've grown too fast too quickly, so absolutely their infrastructure is not solid enough to help them continue to run a business effectively, or the business is just on the cusp of making it, really starting to be successful, whatever that means to them. But they could be looking at enhanced systems, bringing a team in, achieving bigger targets, looking at a new ideal client. And I think it's at that point where I'd like to probably share a lot more for businesses, because that really is can be a real sweet spot with people like going for it, or starting to just, keep maintaining at a certain level. And that's what I find when lots of clients come to work with me. They know they can achieve a lot more. They just don't know how to do it. So this is just capturing them at a slightly different stage, really.
Okay, yeah, because there was a thing that I've talked about on podcasts and with clients, is when businesses grow beyond their capacity.
Yeah.
And for me, and I'm probably talking more specifically towards customer services, because that was my area of expertise and very much relates to customer service, is when people over automate systems and lose that human contact, where you can actually just speak to somebody. But there's, we've got a form for that. No, scrap forms. Don't there's a time and a place for automation, but I always find if people lose that human side to the front desk operation, I've always described it as grown to beyond your capacity, grown too big for your capacity, because you like I said, it just, and I used to see this in customer services, and I'm traditionally or originally, sorry, from the car trade. Is the more they automated the system, the less we were spending face to face with a customer. And that was the most important interaction for loyalty.
I totally agree. I think, I'd like to think now I've kind of got the right balance between what is automated and what is personable in my business. And I grew my whole business through networking, word of mouth, and recommendation. That's just the foundation and the bones of my business, and still is, really. But I definitely, as soon as I could, I switched all my networking back face to face, and just having that, my client who was in today, I know what her husband's name is. I know what her husband's names are. I know where she lives. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's all that personal connection that just speaks volumes, and I think really helps massively with retention, and just having a relationship with someone way beyond, I don't know, like a 3-month program or a 6-month program or whatever it may be. You're seeing that client return time and time again. So it impacts in so many ways. I totally agree.
Yeah, because I saw it in the car trade all the time. The product is what gets them through the garage door originally, but it's how you build that relationship with them that keeps them with the product. Because you can make mistakes looking after them, but if you have a good relationship, they will forgive you almost anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, and depending on that relationship, sometimes it can be, oh, do you know what? I know I didn't do that quite right, but what we're going to fix here is, and you've got that way of communicating like that. So yeah, it's having that balance. There are some things that are dead easy for automation and that can just happen. But I think having a good balance of personable connection and automation is really key.
Yeah,
Definitely.
no, I like I said, I'm a massive advocate for automating the back systems, if you like, and but never trying not to lose that face-to-face customer contact. So how did you start your own business?
Oh gosh. So my background is in corporate. So I was a buyer for one of the top supermarkets in the UK. And for my sins, I was a buyer of fresh chicken, bananas, flowers, wine. That was quite exciting, but various different categories.
Well, I'm just going to. Is that where the love of champagne came from?
Yes. Absolutely, and still is very much a love. But for sure, it taught me so much. I mean, oh gosh, you just work so hard in that industry, and I ended up being involved in so many different things, whether it was legal, HR, operations, marketing, whatever it may be. You were literally responsible for everything from beginning, like whether it was the product on the shelf all the way through to if it was growing in the ground, like, and everything in between, you were responsible for it. And I came at a bit of a crossroads. I met my husband at the same office, and he got made redundant. So I was very much like, I am in here, I'm going to get made redundant too. And it didn't happen, which I was very sad about. But then I decided to go self-employed, and I went off and did some project management stuff. And then I got involved in network marketing, actually, which it's a bit of an area where it does get a bit of a bad rap. People are like, oh, is it a pyramid scheme and blah, blah, blah. But actually, I worked with a very solid company. And I think it's one of the best experiences you can have as a business owner is to literally work that kind of business model, because it shows and teaches you so much. So it's a bit of a crossroads. I was doing project management, I was in network marketing, and then I came across a networking group, and I started talking to the women in the room and could really quickly see how through all my experience and skills and expertise, I could help them with strategy and accountability. And that was really where my business started about 8 years ago. And it's grown to where it is today. So it's been quite a journey, but it was one of those kind of turning points where I was like, I'm not doing this part anymore. This is where I see my kind of direction going. And 8 years later, I'm still here.
So just being mindful of time, when people are starting up business and stuff, I'm sure a common question is, what do people get wrong? But I want to know what people get right.
Oh my goodness. What do business owners get right? Looking after their clients. I think their clients end up being what they will go all out for, to make sure that, they are providing a good service and providing, what they went into business for. Because essentially, when you start a business, that's what you're going in for. You're going to be able to, service those clients with what you're passionate about. So I would say client delivery, satisfaction, that kind of area, I think is probably one of the things that business owners do get right, and quite quickly. It's all the other stuff that they don't want to do. But that part, I think they get right really well. But then, obviously that can lead into the busyness and the procrastination that we've talked about. But yeah, I think first and foremost, when people go into business, it's because they want to do what they're good at, not necessarily run a business.
Yeah, that's true. And if somebody is, when it comes to networking, because networking, like you say, can be a wonderful resource.
Yeah.
What do people do well when it comes to networking?
Gosh, what do they do well? Depends at what stage they're at, really. I think if it's someone brand new to networking, just showing up is good. And just showing up consistently is good. I think when you've been networking for a little while, you definitely start to then see all the different characteristics and skills that you get as a result of being in networking for over a period of time. So that could be, more clarity in their message. It could be more confident in speaking. It could be that, they are warmer to connections of people in the room. I would just say it depends at what stage that person is at when it comes to networking. Because it's not for everybody. And I know a lot of business owners that love the fact that it's online because they can literally hide behind a screen. Whereas I feel like there's nothing like in-person networking. That you get the body language, the sense of how somebody is, you get, how you can help someone, you get that, just that connection, really. So much stronger than online.
So I'm just going to finish off with one last question, which I'm going to think about a second, because it's a variation of a question I normally ask. Okay. And if you could historically be any place, any time, where would it be? And where would you be drinking the champagne?
Oh my goodness. What, personally?
Yeah.
Or in history?
Yeah. You imagine you've got a magical time machine, really, and your favourite champagne, so whatever champagne you want, where are you? What are you doing and why?
Oh my goodness. That's a toughie.
You can have a couple of answers if you want.
I think I might need a couple of answers. Yeah. So one of them, without a doubt, is this year I was fortunate enough to go to LA. That's Los Angeles, by the way. Someone said, "Oh, is that Long Ashton in Bristol?" to me the other day. I'm like, no, Los Angeles.
Definitely not.
Exactly. So it would definitely be at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, which is where we were fortunate to do some of our meetings, for sure, because that was just amazing. Any occasion where we've been as a family, or I've been with my husband on Polzeath Beach in North Cornwall.
I've surfed it. I know it well.
Without a doubt, that is like top of the list at any single one of my historical moments there, because I just adore it. Gosh, where else? I don't know, David. That's a toughie. That's a real toughie.
Right. I thought you answered that very well.
Oh, thanks. I'm like crikey, racking my brain thinking where. But yeah, definitely those two. I'll think of more and then I'll message you and go, this one.
Yeah, I want this one. I want this one. And what champagne would you be drinking? What champagne would you be drinking?
Probably Bollinger.
Nice.
Yeah, probably. I like a nice bottle of Polly. Yeah.
But champagne is actually my favourite drink as well.
Oh, good. What's your favourite bottle then?
I'll be honest, the first thing that popped in my head was free.
Free champagne.
That was the first thing. When you said what's my favourite, that was the first thing that popped into my head.
Sounds amazing.
It was free champagne.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to say it probably is a Bollinger. Bollinger is. I've not had it much. I had it at a wedding, and I remember, and it might have just been the wedding, but it helped. But I have a friend, Martin, and whenever we don't see each other often, because he works for a company that takes them all around the world. But whenever we meet up, the first thing we do is drink a bottle of champagne.
Yeah, lovely. There's something about the bubbles in Bollinger. It's really delicate.
And that's a great place to stop. Thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate it.
You're welcome. That has whizzed by. Crikey. Thank you.